Jane Anderson found herself in a whirlwind of emotions after discovering a message on John Smith's phone. I bought a nightgown. I'll wear it for you when you come over. She instinctively touched her belly, where a new life was growing. Her fiancé, John Smith, was seeing someone else while pursuing his graduate studies.
I can't believe this. Not after 7 years together.
They had met at a graduation party for John's high school teacher. Jane was just an average student at a regular college, while John was a top student at a prestigious university.
Hey, I'm John. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm here to pick up my brother.
They naturally fell into a relationship, got engaged, and John stayed at his university for graduate school. Jane always felt inadequate compared to John's classmates and their prestigious backgrounds, so she secretly prepared for the bar exam to support him.
I'll surprise him by becoming a lawyer. He'll be so proud.
But fate had other plans. She fainted at the exam venue and discovered she was expecting a baby. Still, she saw it as a blessing. After giving birth, she could return to work and make John proud.
Once the baby is born, I can work as a lawyer. John won't feel embarrassed introducing me.
However, the reality of John's infidelity hit hard. The messages revealed his disdain for her.
Your plain-looking fiancé is just an ordinary college graduate, so easy to fool. Last time, you switched positions and called her, and she didn't even notice.
She's too boring. You're much better.
Jane took a deep breath, resisting the urge to crush the phone and put it back in its place. She dried John's hair as usual after his shower.
What do you want to eat tomorrow? I'll make it for you since you're finally back.
No need. Cooking is tiring for you.
He had just told the other girl he wanted coconut chicken, but he couldn't face Jane.
Okay.
The next day, Jane made coconut chicken and headed to John's school. She found his lab and saw a curly-haired girl hugging him, tickling his side. They kissed.
How ironic. He warned me not to disturb him during experiments.
Jane waited until the girl kissed John on the lips, then pushed open the lab door.
This door is so heavy.
John and the girl quickly separated.
Emma, why are you here? Didn't I tell you not to come to the school unless it's important?
Senior, who is this?
Jane ignored the girl and maintained her usual polite demeanor.
Mom made coconut chicken today.
John's eyes filled with panic. He feared Jane had discovered the messages.
If I expose this now, his family will pressure him to cut ties with her, and he'll resent me. I won't be that foolish. I've spent 7 years with him. He must pay a heavy price.
Jane wouldn't let John off easily. She was determined to make him pay for his betrayal. I ignored her and maintained my usual submissive and polite demeanor.
Mom made coconut chicken today.
At the mention of coconut chicken, I saw panic in his eyes. Was he afraid I had discovered the messages on his phone?
If I expose this now, the result would be nothing more than him being pressured by his family to cut ties with the girl and then resenting me with cold indifference. When I couldn't take it anymore, he would blame everything on me for being annoying. What a clever calculation. But I wouldn't be that foolish. That would be too much of a loss.
I've spent 7 of my most precious years with him. If I don't make him pay a heavy price, it would be too unfair. I'm not Sarah Williams, my stomach is too delicate to eat wild vegetables. I ignored her and maintained my usual submissive and polite demeanor.
Mom made coconut chicken today.
At the mention of coconut chicken, I saw panic in his eyes. Was he afraid I had discovered the messages on his phone? If I exposed this now, the result would be nothing more than him being pressured by his family to cut ties with the girl and then resenting me with cold indifference. When I couldn't take it anymore, he would blame everything on me for being annoying. What a clever calculation. But I wouldn't be that foolish. That would be too much of a loss. I've spent 7 of my most precious years with him. If I don't make him pay a heavy price, it would be too unfair. I'm not Sarah Williams, my stomach is too delicate to eat wild vegetables. I ignored her and maintained my usual submissive and polite demeanor.
Mom made coconut chicken today.
At the mention of coconut chicken, I saw panic in his eyes. Was he afraid I had discovered the messages on his phone?
If I expose this now, the result would be nothing more than him being pressured by his family to cut ties with the girl and then resenting me with cold indifference. When I couldn't take it anymore, he would blame everything on me for being annoying. What a clever calculation.
But I wouldn't be that foolish. That would be too much of a loss. I've spent 7 of my most precious years with him. If I don't make him pay a heavy price, it would be too unfair.
I'm not Sarah Williams, my stomach is too delicate to eat wild vegetables.
I almost burst out laughing. They really didn't deviate from my expectations for even a second.
John, weren't you and her just like siblings? How could this happen?
Compared to someone as uneducated as you, even a fool knows to choose me. What else can you do besides cooking and laundry? I can have intellectual conversations with John. A woman like you, even our mentor said, is boring to be with.
She poked John with her arm. John snapped out of it, avoiding my gaze.
John, is all of this true?
You're too boring. Not only do we lack intellectual conversations, but you also refuse to try new things. Alice gives me the excitement and freshness you can't.
You didn't know, did you? Several times when John was on the phone with you, he was actually with me. A boring, rigid, and uneducated woman like you is destined to be dumped.
I covered my face, trembling all over. Laughing. I wished they would say more.
From now on, Alice and I will be together. I'm breaking up with you completely. Move out of my house.
Can't you see that even John doesn't want you anymore? Why are you still clinging to another woman's man? Are you that desperate for a man?
Who exactly is desperate for a man, climbing into the bed of an engaged person? I made no response. The saintly, pure-hearted woman shouldn't have a temper. Someone else would teach her a lesson for me. Slap. A crisp slap. Alice was knocked into John's arms, cursing furiously.
Who, which shrew, come out?
Who dares to hit my woman?
John's mother turned on the lights in the room and kicked John in the knee.
It's your mother. What? You don't even respect me anymore.
John instantly cowered like a quail.
Mom, why are you here?
He looked at me, questioning with his eyes.
You still dare to blame Emma? I overheard Emma talking to her friend on the phone and learned she wanted to commemorate something with you privately. We old folks decided to come and surprise you. When you proposed, we were going to give Emma a red envelope. If we hadn't come, I wouldn't have known Emma was suffering so much. You beast!
And you, splashing water from the table onto Alice, climbing into a married man's bed, and still being so righteous, you shameless woman.
John's mother, a retired teacher, was always composed. For her to lose her temper like this showed how angry she was. Even when my parents and cousins rushed forward to beat John, the usually protective John's mother didn't intervene. Alice was surrounded and insulted by a group of relatives. No matter how capable she was, she couldn't withstand the public's criticism. The spittle alone could drown her. And I was just the pitiful victim, crying softly on the side. When John was beaten to the point of needing to be sent to the hospital and Alice fled with disheveled hair, John's mother finally came to comfort me.
It was nothing more than saying she only recognized me as her daughter-in-law and didn't acknowledge any other woman trying to persuade me to stay in the marriage.
Of course, I agreed. The marital home wasn't in my possession yet. How could I not agree?
Mom, I'm really scared. If a man makes a mistake once, he might do it again. What if next time there's another woman and you aren't home? Wouldn't he kick me out? I'm really scared.
Good child. Don't be afraid. The marital home will be in your name. You'll live there rightfully and he won't have any reason to kick you out.
But their words are harsh. You saw how vicious those women can be. I'm afraid he might bring another woman home to provoke me. What if I'm pregnant then? Wouldn't it be a disaster?
The more I spoke, the more serious it became. My family also supported me, saying the marriage should be called off. How could it not be? My virtuousness and his education made us a strong match, known throughout the neighborhood and even the entire community. If we broke up, everyone would know John had been unfaithful, and I had a few friends who were social media influencers. If I cried publicly, John's future would be uncertain. The Smith family didn't dare to break up with me. In the end, in their desperation, I proposed a solution.
Thanks to my legal studies, I knew about the obscure knowledge of residence permits. Although the marital home wouldn't have John's name on it, he could live there with a residence permit. He couldn't easily sell the house without permission, but having only residency rights ensured he couldn't bring other women home. This way, I couldn't run off with the money, and our marriage would remain intact.
In such an urgent situation, the Smith family didn't have time to think it over and agreed to my request. Under the pressure from my parents, they went to the housing authority and completed the paperwork on the spot. With a few tears, I secured a 3-bedroom house worth $3 million, solely under my name. Emma White maintained her usual calm demeanor despite the storm brewing inside her.
Mom made coconut chicken today.
At the mention of coconut chicken, Emma noticed a flicker of panic in John Smith's eyes. Was he afraid she'd discovered the messages on his phone? If she exposed his infidelity now, it would only lead to him being pressured to cut ties with the girl and resenting Emma even more.
What a clever calculation. But I won't be that foolish. I've invested 7 precious years in this relationship. If he's going to pay, it will be a heavy price.
John Smith was summoned back by my relentless calls. As soon as he returned, he pledged his loyalty to me.
I promise, Laura. I won't associate with Alice Brown anymore.
How disgusting. Clearly, it was his responses that dragged a girl into a deep pit, yet he could still act innocent with such confidence. John made me want to vomit.
Fine, John. Just leave me alone.
I couldn't even be bothered to deal with him and started giving him the cold shoulder. Men have a tendency to crave attention. After being ignored by me for a few days, he was back with Alice Brown. Alice even had him call me.
Laura, can we talk?
What is it, John?
This only fueled John's arrogance, and his relationship with Alice grew closer. Of course, every time they met, it was in bed. How could their feelings not intensify?
Under my manipulation, John now feared even my touch. The less he touched me, the happier I was. Who would want to face a filthy man every day? I only needed his excellent genes to raise my next generation.
If it weren't for his good education, height of 6 feet 2 inches, and striking features, I wouldn't have bothered with him. Since I decided to keep the child and not the father, it was all about the genes, not the feelings.
I didn't care about John's indifference towards me, in fact, I treated him even better. Recently, I received several anonymous messages on my phone.
You're just a block of wood. Do you know how to satisfy a man? Do you know what he says about you when he's holding me? He says you're like a corpse in bed. Only lying there like a corpse for your husband. You're really proud of yourself, aren't you? What a competent wife you are.
The sarcastic tone and nonsensical words after being provoked clearly came from Alice Brown. I felt sorry for her.
She was a promising girl, beautiful and well-educated. Why waste her golden life on a man who was unfaithful and dirty? This cowardly man would only run away when faced with problems, leaving her to bear the blame while he walked away unscathed. Was it really worth it to pay such a heavy price for such a despicable man? I felt it wasn't worth it for her, but I could only sympathize with her emotionally. My revenge on this filthy man would be merciless. John still had some shame and didn't dare to go to Alice's apartment every day, so he would come back occasionally. Whenever he returned, I would prepare nourishing dishes for him, like stewed lamb and stir-fried sea cucumber with chives. Each time, he would eat until he was burning with desire, but I loathed him so much that I wouldn't get intimate with him.
He could only sneak out to Alice's apartment for his affairs. Over time, his body was drained. Unable to satisfy Alice, she couldn't tolerate her man being inadequate. John's fragile ego couldn't accept his inadequacy either, so he soon started using medication under my draining regimen. To add the final touch, I had Sophia Lee rent the apartment next to Alice's to some nosy TikTok influencers. They live-streamed John leaving Alice's apartment several times, and the public pressure forced both John and Alice to move out. Without a place to stay, Alice clung to John even tighter. She was like a character from a drama, increasing his medication and indulging in physical desires, believing that only through this could she keep him by her side. Day by day, week by week, month by month, 3 months passed. As graduation season approached, John was overwhelmed by his drained body, increased medication, and the pressure of his thesis.
Laura, you won't believe this, but John.
I laughed. A scream came from the other end of the line. I knew my plan had succeeded. John died in Alice's arms, just like a character from an old story.
And I, like a cunning character, had been feeding him the potion all along. Now that he had died in bed, it was understandable. I put down the phone and took out the life insurance policy I had bought for John 5 years ago. At that time, I was just worried that he might pass from overwork, leaving me without support. I didn't expect this insurance to bring an unexpected bonus.
Alice, witnessing John's passing on her, was mentally shattered and sent to a mental institution, with me kindly paying the fees since her parents seemed to have abandoned her. As for John's parents, who had always urged me to be patient and forgiving, they finally reaped the consequences. Mr. Smith, upon learning of John's demise in such a disgraceful manner, was overwhelmed with shame, anger, and grief, leading to a heart attack and sudden passing. Mrs. Smith, unable to bear the loss of her longtime companion and beloved son, lost her sanity and ran onto a busy road, where she was hit by a truck and died instantly.
When the Smith family demanded the return of the property, I presented my pregnancy records and claimed the dowry as child support and inheritance. I had bought the marital home, and with part of the compensation, I moved next door to my friend. On the day I gave birth, she brought a row of puppies to sing congratulations to me. Looking at the child on the bed, I felt weak but unusually light-hearted. The Smith family had always known about John's infidelity but treated me like a fool, thinking I was unaware and easy to bully, making me the scapegoat. Counting the zeros in my bank balance and looking at the meticulously decorated 200-square-meter apartment in the city center, I laughed like a carefree girl from a wealthy family. Who was the real fool in the end?